A renowned investor, notorious cheapskate, or just about the most badass grandma you've ever heard of. Hetty Green died at the ripe old age of 81 after arguing with her maid about the qualities of skimmed milk. Her own son had to have his leg literally amputated because Hetty took so long waiting to get into the free clinic rather than paying for immediate assistance. Oh boy, we're doing another fucking whack job. Hetty was born in 1834 in New Bedford, Massachusetts. Her family, the Howlands, were the richest whaling family in the area. They had a massive whaling fleet under their command at the time, and her grandfather, Gideon, ran the family company. This is sort of important because she went off to go live with him at a young age, and it's here where she learned how to read all of the boring stock books and how to properly be a financier, yada yada yada. But in 1844, Gideon, the grandfather, died. So the company went to her father and she attended a boarding school. Without getting bogged down in boring details, throughout this period of her young adult life, her aunt, father, and mother, who were all super loaded, all died and left her with a lot of money. Her aunt's will sort of pissed her off because it didn't leave her as much as she hoped, so she forged her own. Yep, in one of the state's most groundbreaking legal cases, it was ruled that the wills she claimed gave her fucking everything in her aunt's estate were actually just forgeries. Way to go, Hetty! This laid a foundation for future cheapskatiness and tomfoolerishness that would characterize her life, and she would later be aptly named the Witch of Wall Street. Before her father died, she was in New York City and met a Mr. Edward Henry Green. One important thing to note that'll help us down the line is that all of the money Hetty inherited from her father was her money alone, which was not common in America back then, so basically her husband had no influence over her or her finances. When they eventually did get married, she ensured that he publicly renounced all rights to her money. God damn, way to go, Hetty! Do you happen to remember that court case from earlier? Yeah, the people she was trying to sue for her own aunt's inheritance kinda were still pissed about that whole forging a will thing. So they tried to have her indicted. How does Hetty honorably react to this whole debacle? She jumps ship and moves her and her new husband to London. Way to go, Hetty! She popped out 2 children from there and continued a strategy of investing where basically she would buy shit nobody wanted and wait for years until it suddenly became wanted again. During the Gilded Age, people always needed more and more loans to stay afloat. So, who did a lot of these people go to? The badass herself, Hetty Green. She would often, by herself mind you, go and collect debts on her own. Something to note, she always tried her absolute hardest to save money on soap, although she was a billionaire. There's a story about how she spent 3 hours fumbling around in her carriage for a 2-cent stamp, and also, she would only wear one dress that definitely was hardly ever washed. Later down the road, she had a fucking hernia and didn't get any surgery for it to be removed. Nope, who needs it? So, whenever it would swell up, she had to get a stick and would beat it down. She eventually moved her quote-unquote office, I use quote-unquote because she didn't even have a desk and would sort of just throw around her papers in an empty room. But she moved it on over to the National Park Bank because she thought she was poisoned. Apparently that was a usual thing for her because on her walks, she thought assassins were lurking everywhere. Whew. You go, Hetty. Eventually, at the age of 81, she died.